in the 10th year celebration of the Ice Bucket Challenge. It is Matt Ryan. Matt, thanks for being on this morning.
Thank you, guys. I like that little intro, too. The cold as ice.
Yes,
was perfect.
sir. Matty Ice, how was the trip over from Logan? Did it take 4 hours?
It's not good. It's not good, guys. All this construction they've done for the last quarter of a century hasn't figured out how to get you back into the city in an easy fashion.
Well, you got a couple Eagles on the show in Curtis and Courtney and, of course, the great Jermaine Wiggins. And I think Wiggy wants to start this morning.
Yeah, Matt, my question is, and I think you're the perfect person to answer this, because we've been arguing about Drake May, and your situations are similar. Third overall pick, coming to a team that had only won 4 games, new coach. How important, and I talk about live reps, and Drake May's not getting many with the ones. How important was it for you to be able to get thrown in there with the ones and kind of basically learn on the job, where it seems like Drake May is sitting in the back waiting? I guess maybe take us down that road a little bit.
Yeah, I think every situation is different. But speaking from my own personal experience, this is like the hot topic right now. Should we sit quarterbacks and let them develop, or go let them play and kind of figure it out on their own? I thought there was tremendous value to being thrown right into it and kind of figuring it out as you go. And I feel like most of my progression, during training camp heading into that first season was it was massive day to day, right? The things you were learning, the looks you were seeing, just the amount of reps I was getting. I thought that was huge for my growth and development. And then really, even through that first half of the season, first 3 quarters of the season, my rookie year, I was getting better week to week. And so I thought there was tremendous value to it. I think you could argue both sides of it for sure. I'm excited, though. I'm going out to check out practice tomorrow over in Foxborough and take a look. And so, I'm excited to see it, in person and what he can do. And just on top of that, all of the changes that are going on with the organization as well, for the first time in a quarter of a century that they've got all of the changes that they've had. It's going to be interesting to see. I'm a believer that you should play young guys. I think with the current climate of how contracts are set up and the salary cap, you've got this 4 or 5 year window where essentially if you draft a young quarterback and you feel like he can play, you're playing with him for free. And so yeah. I think there's a ton of value to that. And I think, you want to get as much experience for him as possible. And I think live reps are the best way to do it.
Speaking of the changes here, did it surprise you that Arthur Blank passed on Bill Belichick?
Well, when you think about the success Bill has had, I think anybody passing on him, right, is surprising. I think that when you consider where Atlanta is at and what they want to do, and kind of, they've got their own quarterback, situation as well with them signing Kirk Cousins and then drafting, Michael Penix. I think they're really looking long term and trying to get stability in that organization, for the next decade plus. And I think, considering all of that, I wasn't necessarily shocked that they went in a direction with a younger coach.
Which do you think he will regret more, that decision or maybe a premature celebration on the sideline during a Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think probably the premature celebration. We all could have used that game to end just a little bit sooner.
Wiggy was saying he thinks that you. I was saying you probably don't think about that game. Wiggy says he thinks you think about it every day. I don't.
Oh yeah. I lost to I was in Carolina when we lost the Super Bowl 38, and I think about that. And being up 28-3. That's completely different. It's like, oh yeah, this is ours in hand, so I know he's.
Do you still think about it?
Yeah. I come on anytime I'm in New England. I'm reminded of it, so I think about it more often when I'm up here, for sure. But it definitely is. I think as a player, right, you have all of these memories, and for me, it's always the tough ones that you remember. The good times, you kind of celebrate them and move on, but the hard ones are the ones that last. And so, it's tough as part of the deal, part of, playing in the most competitive environment in the world. And Certainly disappointing. I'm not sure I'm completely over it, but we'll get there hopefully someday.
Yeah.
Matt, there were rumors that the Falcons were all in on Bill, and then the Crafts reached out to them and maybe blackballed Bill, for lack of a better term. Do you have any inside scoop on if they were in on him and what may have conspired behind closed doors?
I don't have anything, more than you guys, right? I know there was interest. I know there was multiple interviews, and they certainly considered it. I don't know anything about, the conversations with Mr. Kraft or anything like that. But I think ultimately the decision for the organization, at least how I understand it, is, that they felt like they wanted to try and create, a sustainable situation for the next decade plus. And they feel like they've done that with Raheem Morris.
Matt, I know we've been talking about the Falcons and everything, and you're in town for maybe the greatest Eagle of Pete Frates. BC football looks like it has a optimistic future with Bill O'Brien taking over. Have you spoken with Billy, and what are your thoughts on the hire for Boston College football?
Well, I love it, and I have. I was up for practice during the spring and got to speak with the team and kind of sit in meetings and talk with Bill. And I'm optimistic too. I think, Boston College is listen. The landscape of college football has changed so much since I played at BC, and it's a different environment that you're competing in. But I've always felt like BC is a unique place, and it requires people that know how it operates. And I think Bill, being from the area, St. John's Prep, alum, and a guy that knows this area, wants to be here, wants to be in this area. I think it's huge. And then you look at, his track record as a coach, right? And where he's been, the stops along the way, whether it's, his time spent in New England in the NFL, whether it's his time as a head coach in major college football at Penn State or in the NFL with Houston, and time spent at Alabama. I think all of these things, seeing it, done different ways is really going to benefit him. And I think his tie to the area, his ability to recruit this area, keep, the best players in New England, keep them here in New England, and then go, find a way, like they did with me, to find kids from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or Ohio. That was kind of always the blueprint for our success at BC, and I think Bill's going to get back to that.
Are you, when you're at the age you're at, I'm at the age I'm at, which is 57. You look at Aaron Rodgers. Are you surprised that he's still doing it?
I'm not surprised, knowing what kind of player he is, and just, I think a lot of times the narrative gets skewed with him, right? But he takes such incredible care of his body, of his mind. I mean, he does it his way for sure, but he's found a way to do it that works for him, and it doesn't surprise me. I played against that guy enough to never discount or never count him out. And so there are mornings where I wake up. I'm only 39, not 57, but there are mornings I wake up and I'm like, man, I can't believe he is still doing it. But it's definitely impressive. I'm like anybody. I mean, excited to see what this Jets team is going to be. I mean, you guys know it being in the AFC East. It's going to be interesting. That defense was really good last year. The offense was inept, but I think when you add Aaron to the mix and what he can do, I think that's a scary team in the AFC East.
You made a successful transition to television with CBS. How do you think Tom Brady will do?
I think Tom will do great. I really do. I think, given his knowledge, which is second to none, I mean, he's got incredible insight. I also think he's a guy that whatever it is he's going to do, he's going to put his complete effort behind it, and he's going to be incredibly well prepared. And so, like everybody else, I'm looking forward to kind of hearing, what he has to say, how he's going to commentate games. I think he's going to learn a ton, in that first year. I think, myself doing it last year, calling games, the growth from the beginning of the year to the end of the year is significant. Really learning the technical side of it, to me, was the hardest part, right? And kind of figuring out how to get in and out, listen to the producer, understand camera angles, what plays well for viewers with different camera angles, and really learning how to drive that, to me, is the key, as a color guy. And I think he'll pick that up quickly, but I think his insight will be awesome.
Players who do it sometimes say the hardest part for them was criticizing other guys. Was that hard for you?
I mean, I think there's a way to be critical without being malicious. Like I often viewed it the same way I would view watching my own game tape, right? There's certain stuff that, there are plays you should have made. And so I kind of viewed it that exact same way of if I would critique myself this way, I'm comfortable critiquing, someone else. I also think that it comes down to a level of preparation. Like I'm not a massive fan of just making a hot take, without having watched a ton of the film and what they're doing during the season and talk to them about some of the things. I think all of those things make it, a little bit more easy to be critical when you need to be.
Speaking of guys joining TV, you surprised Bill Belichick is going to be on TV with Pat McAfee and with this what was it called? Underdog network this fall.
Yeah, I think given how he was for so long, I think it's going to be fascinating to see kind of the other side of him, and that's part of it, right? Whether you're a head coach or you're a quarterback, when you're on the other side of the microphone, right, answering the questions, you've got to protect the organization, you've got to protect your teammates, your staff, you've got to be able to do those things, and Bill did it his way, but. I think being able to get into the behind the scenes with Bill, right, what he was like in the locker room with those guys in team meetings, I think that's going to be fascinating to watch. And I think there's a level of personality that's going to come out with him, and I think it's going to be great for fans of the NFL.
In the Twitch chat, they want me to ask you, Matt Ryan, were you a Mary Ann's guy or a city side?
City
Side guy?
I was equal opportunity. I'll be honest. I spent many hours in both establishments, and
Depended if you needed food with your beer.
Yeah, so if you needed something to eat, you go over to City Side. But if you were there to partake and to get after it, you went right into Mary Ann's.
Matt, you were one of the bigger names that took part in the Ice Bucket Challenge at the beginning 10 years ago. I can't believe it, but you were probably the biggest to kick things off. How did you get involved, and what's it like to see where it is now 10 years later?
Yeah, so I got involved because a buddy of mine, Pete Frates, tagged me on one of the challenges. And so I was like, all right, I got to do this, right? Pete was one of my friends from Boston College. He's actually one of the first guys I met on orientation, as an incoming freshman. And so knowing kind of his struggle with it and how he was fighting it, and then being tagged in that way, it was like the perfect timing for something to explode, right? It was the beginning of, kind of the honeymoon phase of social media, right? Where it still was fun. It was a little bit less malicious at that time, which was good. And so I got tagged, I did it, and then tagged some of my teammates and different guys, and it took off. But that was it. It was a friend who reached out to do it. And for me, it was like a no-brainer. It was fun. I was a training camp at the time at Flowery Branch, so it felt really good after one of the practices. It was probably something I was going to do anyhow. So to create awareness for ALS at the time and research and not only have something fun for people to do, but really raise money. I thought that part was awesome. And to look at it 10 years later, I think it's really important to understand the amount of money that has been raised to find a cure. But with that, people have started to live longer, struggling with the disease and understanding the care portion of it for the families that are, taking care of their loved ones. It's become incredibly expensive. And I think that's what the Frates Foundation is doing, right? Is finding ways to raise money to help the families that are going through it, because it's bankrupt a lot of people. And as people who are struggling with the disease continue to live longer, the expense is only going to go up. So I think it's a really cool two-pronged approach, right? We need to continue to raise money, for the research, and they've done an incredible job of that. But we also have to find ways to support the families that are dealing with that. And I give a lot of credit to the Frates Foundation for doing that.
Speaking of social media, how long after the Super Bowl loss did it take you to start reading comments?
Yeah, I needed one of those darkness retreats or something like that afterwards. I
Rodgers
didn't do it. I didn't know about it at the time. I wish I did.
Well, it's really cool that you're doing this, and it's a really important day over there. And I really appreciate you taking the time with us this morning, Matt Ryan. Thank you.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me on.
How many wins for the Patriots?
Ooh, put me on the spot. I'm going to say
The over
6.
4.5 is. Oh, you're saying 6?
I'm going to say 6.
Okay.
Wow.
All right, Matt Ryan. Thanks for
Let's
taking
be
the time.
optimistic today.
All right,
It's
man.
only August 1st.
Thank you. Go Eagles.